Hi, everybody. I'm Rainbow, and welcome to Dimensional Walking. Today's going to be a little bit of some hodgepodge stuff that I wanted to talk about. It's going to be a full of different topics that I thought you might find interesting. One is the witching hour, which for me is kind of like, it's a topic that I've always wondered about ever since I was a kid, because when is the witching hour? What is the witching hour? And why did it, where did it come from? Different aspects of it I find very interesting. And then I have, within that witching hour, what comes with the witching hour is, I believe, this is my opinion, are portals. And I think that within different times during day or night, that there are portals that happen. And there's not like one specific time for the witching hour. I have a reptilian story. I might have mentioned it in another video and I just can't remember. But I'm going to talk about it again today because it kind of has to do with this witching hour aspect of when things happen. But things can happen day or night. It's not like there's one specific time that the paranormal says, hey, I'm going to come in and scare people. So I think that with this particular story, there is, for me, I want to bring it up again because there's a lot to do with, like, when you do experience a paranormal, are there portals that happen in your room or in the location that you're at? How do these things get from one place to the other? How can they go through a wall that you know is there, but it doesn't seem to be an issue for them? And let's see what else we have. And then I think it's talking about the Native Americans who live in two worlds, who they actually can do this. And I know of a couple of medicine men that are able to live in two worlds, and they actually can do a lot of amazing stuff that is just crazy. Well, crazy to me, but probably more commonplace, only because I, along with other people, have forgotten how to use my third eye. And then the last thing will be trusting your third eye. So this will probably be a two-parter, just so you guys know. So let's talk about the witching hour. Now, the witching hour is supposedly supposed to be from 2 to 3:30 a.m. in the morning. And I think that in religious context, it was the time frame when Jesus was supposed to have passed away. But from what I understand, he didn't pass away in the evening. He didn't pass away at 2 a.m. in the morning, per se. I have, ever since I was a young child, had very extreme religious memories. So much so that I would wake up screaming because of the intensity of what they were like. And I have one specific dream of Jesus where I was in a room with him and he was lying down and he was really sick and he wasn't well. And there's a mob outside and they were actually trying to get to him. And I'm holding his hand and I'm telling him, we're going to keep you safe. You're going to be fine. And for me, that was a certain part of the time frame when the mobs were coming for Jesus. And I remember being there at that time. And so I know that it was during the daytime. I remember the building, it was actually 2-story, and it was made with mud, and the bed was, it didn't seem like it was very comfortable. It had straw and stuff on it to where he was lying down. And I remember the window was open and I could hear the mob screaming and yelling outside. And my concern was keeping him safe and making sure nobody would get in to attack him or do anything. So for me, in that respect, the witching hour could possibly be during the daytime. And let's just say that was around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or it could have been noon. But no matter the extreme memory of that, for me, whenever I used to have those memories, it made me realize that maybe the witching hour has to do with just our past memories of when we were here before, because I do believe in reincarnation, and I do have intense memories of being places and locations. And I think that these memories serve as a confirmation for me. So the witching hour is just kind of full of a lot of different things for me, because it's not like the paranormal just has like this awareness at 2 to 3:30 in the morning, and the ghosts go, they go knocking and prowling around at night trying to scare people. So with the paranormal, I think what has a lot to do with the so-called witching hour is portals. And I think that whenever entities come in, they they are able to time travel, or they're able to do what Michael and I call dimensional walking. So if they can kind of come through dimensionally, or come through different portals, or bring portals with them. And I don't think that there's one specific type of portal. I think there's natural portals on this planet, but I think that different groups know how to go from one location to another, and they either have the technology to do it, or they just have the know-how because they are highly advanced. So they just have an ability to do it. So when it comes to that, it makes sense to me, because when I've been visited by these different groups, and it could be aliens, it can be black ops, it can be whoever, whatever technology that they have to be able to create portals. It did happen a lot in the daytime, but it also happened a lot in the nighttime. So for me, the witching hour, I don't think the paranormal has a specific time frame where it says I'm gonna, stuff is gonna start happening. I think it can happen at any time. And I think people who are experiencers also will talk about and say, well, that when they've had their experiences, it's been during the daytime, like me. So there's not like one specific time frame where, oh, okay, this stuff is going to happen. And I think too that when the paranormal happens, it's almost like it just kind of catches you when you're least expecting it. And that's the one thing that when I start to relax and not worry about stuff, is sometimes when I'm the most concerned, because it's like waiting for something to happen sometimes is worse than something actually happening. But the reason why I wanted to bring up the reptilian story is because I think it had something to do with portals. I think it had something to do with weather. It had something to do with what happens when all of this comes together. So the witching hour, does it affect the weather? I mean, have you ever had an experience where, obviously, when you've gone into a room where it's cold, it gets really, really cold quickly. You can kind of see your breath. You get chills going up and down, and you can, it's the room's really cold and the rest of the house is normal, or it's like really hot outside and you're going into a haunted location and one room is just cold. So when that happens, there's some kind of change there. And to me, it possibly can be like a portal. Or it can just be an ability that this entity has, or whatever, to affect the weather, the location, the outside aspect of wherever it's at. So also, I noticed that in this reptilian story, there was something that happened in the room. I just wanted to bring this up ahead of time, is the popping sound in my ears. So the plastic bottles were popping all over the place. So it was almost like being up in a high elevation, and everything was just popping, and my ears included. So I know that the atmosphere was changing as well. So does that mean there's a portal there? Does that mean a portal came through? Does it mean in one part of the room something came through? Or when something comes through, does it change things when its presence is there and it's from another dimension, another reality? The question is like the $1,000,000 question. We just don't know the answers to these questions. But with this reptilian story, one thing that I wanted to kind of share with you guys is that all the above happened when Michael and I were in Utah, and this was in, I think, 2020. We had gone to New Mexico to go get some things for my mother and father's estate. My parents had passed away. And so when we drove from Oregon to New Mexico, and we were coming back. So we came back and we were staying in close to Salt Lake City, Utah. I think is on the outskirts. And when we got to Salt Lake City, the weather was just nuts and crazy. There were these high winds and a lot of dust in the air, and the wind had to have been 40, 50 miles an hour. It was insane how strong this wind was. I mean, when I got out of the car, I was walking kind of like this because I just couldn't get into the door because it was just pushing against me. And actually a guy fell and was rolling on the ground, and people went running over to him to try to help him out because the wind was just kind of blowing him on the ground. So that's how strong it was. And I noticed that it just felt really weird because it had a strange feeling to it, and it had a strange aura to it. And the color was kind of like that color you get when, if you've ever been in a state where they have a lot of tornadoes like Texas, it turns like a weird yellowish green, and it was a strange yellow kind of color. It was probably probably late afternoon, probably around 4:30, something like that, 5 o'clock. But it was just one of those weird moments where when you looked around you, it just looked like you were on Mars. It didn't look normal. So we get into the hotel, and I see a very strange person who's on the other side of the counter, who is Michael had just gone up to talk to get our room and get everything situated. And the person who was there, who was on the other side of the counter, who was checking people in, was very, very tall. And I'd have to say this person was probably easy about 6'5", 6'6". And I couldn't quite tell if this person was male or female. I think she was more female, but she gave the vibe of both. And I walked in, and my hair is blown all over my face. And I said, wow, this is crazy. And I said, how long has this been going on? She said, oh, it's just started. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. No, it hasn't just started, because we've been driving in, and this weather's been like this since we've been here driving in. And she looked at me really strange, and I didn't kind of get what she was talking about. Anyways, Michael and I walk over to the elevator, and I said, Michael, she said that this weather just started. And I said, that doesn't make any sense. He said, it doesn't make any sense because, it's been going on for an hour, 2 hours, whatever. But the way she said it should have got my attention, alerted me, but it didn't. So we go up to our room. There's hardly anybody in the hotel. So no one's in the hotel. It's very quiet. We eat our dinner. We go to bed. At about, it wasn't much later than that. Let's see. Probably went to bed about 10 o'clock because we were pretty tired, 9:30, 10 o'clock. And I slept for a couple hours, and I woke up to the room feeling a little colder, and something right next to me, and all the plastic bottles like these popping, and my ears were popping. And all of a sudden something sat on the bed, and it was pulling the blankets off of me. And I didn't like that. So I woke up, I sat up, I got the blankets, I pulled them back over me, and I just kind of got a little closer to Michael, and I tried to go back to sleep. Whatever it was, got the blankets, moved in behind me, behind my back, and was going to lie down right next to me. And I jumped up out of bed, and I said, no way. And I told Michael, I said, something tried to get in bed with us, and I don't know what it is. I can't feel it. I mean, I can't see it, but I can feel it. So the room got really, really, really dark. It's like the light outside just kind of darkness covered the window. And I hate it when it's dark in a room. I'm one of those people that because I can see spirits, I hate it. All of a sudden, I saw this tall, dark entity, and it was reptilian. And I knew it was reptilian. And I've never had a lot of experiences with reptilians, but when you see a reptilian in the room with you, it's something that to be reckoned with, because it's so scary. And this thing just was very intrigued by Michael and I, and and it seemed like he was focused on me. And I couldn't handle this thing sitting on the bed, and you could feel the bed move and push down. And then all of a sudden, the last time it tried to kind of get on the covers with me, I just said, I've had it. And I sat up and I said, I've had it. I'm done with you. And so it moved around the backside of the bed. The foot of the bed. And so then I went into the bathroom, I turned the light on, and I just started getting ready for us to leave. I just told Michael, I said, look, I cannot handle this. Whatever this is, it's in the room with us. And I never worry about Michael, because I know Michael can handle stuff like this. Anyways, I'm in the bathroom getting ready, and I hear all this noise outside the door to the hallway, like there's hundreds of people walking by the door. And I'm like going, was there a large group of people that came in after we came into our room? Who are all those people? So I'd walk out of the bathroom and I'd listen, and there'd be nothing. I couldn't hear anything. It'd be quiet, but I could hear somebody walking around the bed, and Michael was tossing and turning in bed. So Michael, on his end, he was fighting this thing, whatever, because once I was in the bathroom and I wasn't in the room, it was focusing on Michael, and Michael can handle stuff like that, but it's, still, he knew that I was having a problem. And anyway, so I got my makeup on, and it was a constant loud noise in the hallway, hearing noise in the room, the bed around Michael. And I knew it was a reptilian. And I just knew that it just had horrible, horrible energy. And I just knew that it was up to no good. And so finally, I don't think Michael could handle more than an hour of it. Michael went ahead and got up too. And we both just got ready, and we left. And I was just so exhausted, because we had a long day's drive to come back to Oregon. But when you feel that type of reptilian energy, you know it. And what's very disconcerting about that kind of energy is trying to figure out if it is male or female, because I think they can morph either one way or another, which is very strange and very interesting. But I think that with the change in the room, with the atmosphere changing, getting colder, getting darker, with there being some kind of portal that I think the portal was right by the front door leading to the hallway, because it just seemed like on the other side of the door, there were a ton of people. And I remember peeping out that little hole, and there's nobody there. So I was just like, what's going on here? So we could say that's the witching hour, right? I don't know if it is, because I experienced something crazy during the day at 4 p.m. So kind of what I'm saying is that the witching hour can be anytime something paranormal crazy happens to you. And it can be from anything. So our experience was a reptilian, and the reptilian, I think, was actually the person that was at the counter downstairs at the hotel that we were staying at. And I think that because there are very few people who were actually staying at the hotel, that I think Michael and I were just the focus of this thing, because the person didn't seem like a person. The person was kind of very, something about that person that was made you very uncomfortable. And I know there's people that can make you feel that way, but this made you uncomfortable from a kind of a primordial place. So witching hour can be anything, anytime, anywhere. And it can be different things associated to it. So it's not just something coming and scaring you, or a spirit or a ghost. It can be an entity. It can be an alien. A reptilian. It can be anything that comes your way, and that can actually just make you so unsettled that you don't know what to do. So I think we'll end here, and let's go ahead and talk about kind of what I do to kind of recenter myself, and other experiences I've had where I think that it had to do with the witching hour and aliens and beings and stuff, and try to kind of look at what all this means when we talk about the underbelly of the paranormal. So stay tuned for part 2.